Okay, we are going to today be talking about CER. You might be thinking to yourself, we know about CER, we do it in science. You do, but now you're going to be doing it in ELA as well. We are getting away from IRASP and starting with CER because it's all the same. And why give you an extra acronym? Why would we do that? So we are going to be today talking about CER and how it relates to ELA. Mrs. Garcia, would you pass out these little cards to everybody? I totally forgot. What is it? At the top of your paper, I want you to write CER, just like this. And I'm going to show you today how CER is just like RASP. CER is just a tool that you will use to answer a constructed response question or an essay question. It's kind of like in math when you have formulas that help you solve an equation. That's essentially what CER is. It's a formula. So the first thing that I want to do is identify CER and remind you what CER means and stands for. Can anybody tell me what the C stands for in CER? Marquise? Claim. Claim. Very good. So I'm going to write claim just like this. Now, when we think about RASP and we think about how it compares to CER, this is your restate and answer. Okay, this is your restate and answer. Thank you. I'll take one of them. Can anybody tell me what the E stands for in CER? Nimra? Evidence. Very good. This one is pretty much the exact same as RASP. This is your support. What about the R in RASP? Megan? Reasoning. Very good. And this is your prove from when you did RASP. Again, CER is just a formula to use to answer a constructed response. It's just a formula. So we are going to pretend as if I've given you this question. What is Mrs. Wyatt's favorite TV show? Use textual evidence. To support the answer. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to use our CER formula to answer this question. Now, the first thing that I want to draw to your attention is the words textual evidence. Textual evidence should signal to you in ELA that this is a direct quote. Okay? Textual evidence in ELA is a direct quote. Now, that might be different than in science, where you have to draw conclusions by looking at data and graphs and all those different things. That might be different in history, when you are looking at a primary document, or you are making an assumption based off of the outcome of a war or a riot or whatever the case may be. But in ELA specifically, when I ask you for textual evidence, I'm asking for a quote from the text. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. So, first thing we want to do is do our claim in our answer. And that is going to be our restating the question and answering the question. Can anybody restate the question for me? D'Anthony. Perfect. Mrs. Wyatt's favorite TV show is. This is me restating the question. I have restated the question into a sentence. Now, Mrs. Ingrassia came around with these little cards. These cards are not yours. They are a class set, so please don't write on them or tear them up or take them with you. You didn't get one? Looking at number 1 on this card, do you know the answer to this question? Or can you make an assumption about what the answer to this question is? Can anyone tell me what it is? Kaden. The office. Very good. So, we are going to finish our first sentence by just putting the office. That is my restate and my answer put into one sentence, making it a claim. I am claiming that Mrs. Wyatt's favorite TV show is The Office. Okay? Now I want you to pick any of your 3 colors. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to choose blue. So I'm going to come up here to my CER at the top, and I'm going to highlight the C and the rest of it, LAIM, in blue, so that when I do my constructed response, I need to make sure that I have all 3 parts in my answer. So I'm also going to highlight my sentence, my restate, and my answer in blue as well. Do you have any questions about claim? Now what we're going to do is move on to the evidence portion. This question tells me that I have to use textual evidence to support the answer. Okay? So on this card, I have, I have the textual evidence that I'm going to use, and that goes with number 1. Now, can I just go ahead and slap down the quote? No. I need to lead in to the quote. How I do that is, you can do it a number of different ways. There's no right or wrong way to lead in the quote, except for one exception. We will never use, I know this because, ever again. So what we're going to do is up here at the top, we're going to give it a little headstone. Because we are never going to use I know this because. It is dead to us. We are leaving it in 6th grade, in elementary school. We're never going to use it. Ever again. We're going to give it a little balloon. Miss you. A flower. Okay? We're never using I know this because again. Because I don't care what you know. I don't care what you think. I want to know what is. Your argument sounds so much stronger whenever you tell me how it is instead of saying, well, I think that this is the way that it is. No. It's so much stronger when you say, this is the way it is. Okay? So we're never going to use I ever again in academic writing unless it's a narrative. Informatives, arguments, constructive responses, all of that, we're not using I. Because I don't care what you think. I don't care what you know. I care about what is. Okay? So one of the ways that you can lead in to a quote is by using a sentence starter. You could use things like, in the text it states, the book says, the author says, she said, he said, whatever. Who said this quote, do you think? Me, right? So does it make sense to say, the book says? No. However, you can say something like, the evidence states. So that's how I'm going to start it off. So I'm going to say, the evidence states, and then I'm going to put a comma. Then what I can do now is, now that I've led in my quote, I can now put my quote down. So I'm just going to copy over number 1 to my paper. Who is the author of this quote? Who should we use in our citation? Who do you think? Will? Yeah, me, right? So we're going to do parentheses, Wyatt. Do we have a page number? No, so we're not going to do a page number. So after Wyatt, we're just going to close the parentheses and put a period. Now you can take your second color and do the same thing that we did for claim, because we've provided our evidence. I'm using green, but you can use whatever color you would like. Now our last part is kind of the part that sums it all up. Does this quote that we've used, this evidence, does it specifically say that Mrs. Wyatt's favorite TV show is The Office? It says that? No. What have we done? We've made an assumption, right? We've looked at the evidence and we have made an assumption, which is good. It's fine. That's fine to do. Very rarely are you going to find a quote that exactly answers the question. That's going to be pretty rare. We have made an assumption and we have proven our answer based off of the facts that we have. So this last part, the reasoning, is where you are going to tell the reader why you chose that piece of evidence. How does that show that her favorite TV show, or my favorite TV show, that's kind of weird that I referred to myself in the third person, why my favorite TV show is The Office? I like to start this with this shows. I like to start this reasoning with this shows. You could also do something like this evidence proves, this proves, therefore. You could really do any of those things to start. But I like to use this shows because it's kind of generic and we can use it in a lot of different ways. Okay? So how does this quote show that my favorite TV show is probably The Office? Do you tend to watch shows that you don't like 8 times? No, right? So I'm going to say something like, this shows that The Office must be a favorite of Mrs. Wyatt's because she loves it and has watched it so many times. Austin, is that the best use of your time? Oh, okay. Your goal in your reasoning is to sum up how your answer and the evidence are related. How does the evidence show whatever the answer to the question is? So if you have a question about, where polar bears live, and your evidence talks about polar bears living in the North Pole, you need to show in your reasoning how those two are related. Clearly, this evidence proves that polar bears live in the North Pole, or the northernmost part of the world, however you want to word it. But it's all about how you are going to pair the two and bridge the two together. And once you've written that last sentence, you can take your final color and do the same thing that you did for claim and evidence. What do you think? Does this feel pretty similar to IRASP? Yeah, hopefully. Remember, this is a tool to use to answer questions. It's a formula. It's a tool for your toolbox to make sure that you answer constructive responses fully and appropriately. Once you have finished, I need you to do a couple things. Do not move until I tell you what to do.